Hello everyone, welcome back to GGN. This is part 3 for this news report today. I'm going to continue with the Middle East, and I'll now get into Russia and China. Syrian tanks enter demilitarized Israeli frontier, so this is where we left off. Interestingly enough, Russia is endorsing an Egyptian-led regional group on Syria. Russia on Monday endorsed an Egyptian initiative to reconvene 4 Middle East powers to try to resolve the Syrian crisis after Saudi Arabia failed to show up for the last 2 meetings. They included Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and Turkey, and Iran, a staunch ally. So it goes on here, it says we fully support the regional quartet initiative that President Morsi has launched to resolve the Syrian crisis as Russia's foreign minister. Then the CENTCOM deputy commander visits troops in Egypt. From November 5th, the deputy commander of the U.S. Central Command paid a visit Monday to American troops stationed in Egypt's troubled Sinai Peninsula. That's what we were just talking about, which has been plagued by lawlessness and a series of militant attacks on local troops and cross-border strikes into Israel. And they're probably basically briefing them about possibly boots on the ground, creating some kind of security block or something inside or around Syria, kind of like Turkey did. So it is a 1,600 strong multinational force, observers, and it goes on and says that the American contingent mission in the Sinai is part of a peace treaty signed by Egypt and Israel in 1979. And it's interesting to note that most of the U.S. foreign aid that goes to Egypt is to not attack Israel. So if Egypt is starting to, like Iraq, assert its sovereignty, you can be rest assured that things are going to start getting blown up in their country, or people to be assassinations, cyber attacks, or troops on the ground, or conflicts spilling over into their country, color revolutions, any one of those things. But it's not, you don't want to take it to heart because I've mentioned this before about the Zionists using Israel and countries around it with all the instability to be on the defense and literally go on the attack, i.e. expand. Israel ties into the first sets of videos where we're talking about making America the big bad enemy, villain, and then basically Israel taking the ball as the new empire. In order for that to happen, they need events like these to occur right around their neighborhood. So I hear like on Christian radio stations and stuff like that because I like to hear what they're saying, and they're talking about the Muslim Brotherhood and stuff like that as if they're a serious grassroots thing. Well, I'm sure they're serious, but they're a Western proxy. I've mentioned that before. So this is the result of the Arab Spring, which is a result of the Anglo-Zionist, Saudi type of U.S. axis. Israeli forces stormed into areas near Sheb farms in South Lebanon. Israeli forces carried out inspection missions on the borderline between the occupied Sheb farms and adjacent liberated areas in southern Lebanon, reports said on Thursday. Official and private Lebanese media reports said that Israeli army infantry forces carried out wide inspection operations at the borderline between the occupied farms and the adjacent liberated areas. Israeli forces have been occupying the farms since 1967, and the United Nations considers them Syrian, but Syria disapproves. I don't know if they're saying that they disapprove of the United Nations or of Israel, but this is probably a hard translation. So the Israeli forces were spotted fortifying their positions with bulldozers along the Lebanese borders and making modifications to the spying and monitoring equipment that are installed on the barbed wires. They're doing more demolitions as well as far as the settlements. Lebanon, was murdered intelligence chief a hero or a double agent? This is coming from Spiegel. So, in mid-October, a massive car bomb killed Hassan in downtown Beirut. The intelligence chief was buried as a hero and praised by the West for his help in investigating the 2005 assassination of former prime minister, or is he a double agent, possibly also active sometimes for the Syrians? I covered this before. Before he died, he was actually making a big deal out of exposing Israeli Mossad inside Lebanon. Egypt summons Myanmar envoy over ongoing killing. of these Muslims. So the Egyptian foreign minister, again, Egypt, has summoned Myanmar's ambassador to Cairo to protest against the ongoing persecution and killing of Muslims in the Southeast Asian country. And just a quick point here, the audio is going to change because my computer, I've been pretty much kind of some kind of remote attack or something, basically my computer coming to a standstill, and I had to record the recording of the first 5 minutes, so now the audio should be a little bit better. Pretty creepy though. I mean, you know, it's pretty bad when you like pull out, your computer doesn't shut down towards the end of the day, and then when you pull out the internet cord that goes into your computer, the computer finally shuts down. I mean, that's kind of freaky. But either way, we're going to keep moving on with Myanmar. Suu Kyi's neutral stance on the Muslims is surprising. So it says here that a prominent academic has announced that Myanmar Nobel Peace Laureate Aung San Suu Kyi's, whoever you pronounce her name's, neutral stance on the ongoing persecution of these Muslims in the Buddhist majority country as surprising and hypocritical. When you go down, it says that her silence is really not helping the persecution of this minority, and it's just starting to look like hypocrisy, sadly, says Rebecca Masterton, a senior lecturer at London's Islamic College. So, the Western Oxford-educated puppet, whose whole purpose has been to uphold human rights, to bring democracy, and suddenly, when it comes to an internal racial issue, she is silent. So I think there's been quite a few questions that marks over this apparent neutral stance.
Gadon, the so-called American Al-Qaeda who proclaimed himself the media maven, if you will, for Al-Qaeda, and was helping to produce a lot of these so-called Al-Qaeda videos that were all over the internet that made Al-Qaeda look really bad and made the Muslims look bad.
Should you fail to comply in full, we will deem it sufficient justification to continue to fight and kill Americans.
Come to find out, Adam Gadon's real name was Adam Perlman. And not only was he, in fact, Jewish, he was the grandson of a member of the board of the Anti-Defamation League. And if you've been following the history of the Anti-Defamation League, you will find out they've been very much involved in covertly supporting a lot of these so-called American Nazi movements. In fact, all the way back, just about the time of World War II, there was this scandal where the head of the American Nazi Party, which had a total membership of like 6, and yet they were getting all this press, was arrested for embezzling from his sponsors, which turned out to be the ADL, so that kind of blew up in their faces. So anyway, we have Adam Perlman, and he's been going around saying, I'm Al-Qaeda, see, I got a turban on my head, I'm a terrible Muslim, gotta hate me, gotta be afraid of me, and of course everybody's laughing at him now because we all know who he is. Okay, so they have brought in the understudy, and there is a new American Al-Qaeda named Yusuf al-Khattab. Ooh, big scary name, and they've got a picture of him out there where he's holding all these guns and knives, and he's dressed up like a wannabe Rambo, and he's scowling at the camera, and he supposedly has this website with things in it, like pictures of the Statue of Liberty with an axe buried in the back of the head. I mean, very heavy-handed, very over-the-top.
There was also a link to a puppet show mocking Danny Pearl's beheading. Take a look. Oh, that's awful.
You know, just looking more like a movie prop than anything else here. So, as it turns out, this is another fake. His real name is Joseph Cohen.
He's a 39-year-old New York City taxi driver, as you mentioned. He called himself Yusuf al-Khattab, but he was born Joseph Cohen here in America. He is a Jew.
And he is another manufactured front to try and convince Americans that Al-Qaeda is actually here in the United States. And this is why we've got to be doing this, doing surveillance on the American people and reading their email and listening to their phone calls and all this stuff, because you never know.
And my video, whatever, Adobe Flash Player just crashed or something. More computer problems. Either way, they don't like you talking about Jews and Zionists and stuff like that in the media, rigging elections and creating this big front that fools a bunch of neocons and Christian Zionists into their movement. Jihadist Internet propaganda is on the rise. So yeah, this is from a foreign website, I think German. It says a study by the Institute for International and Security Affairs examines how many jihadists and sympathizers live in Germany, as well as the new means by which propaganda is being spread. So there you go. You just found that most of them are Zionist Jews in America. They're Americans, kind of like the is Innocents and Muslims quote YouTube movie. It was only a 5-minute clip, trailer or whatever, and it was done by Zionists. So it always points back to that. I'm not blaming all Jews, but you know, I said this once before, and I'll go out and say it publicly. Now, you ever hear the saying? Remember from the movie Ray? You scratch a lie, find a thief. Well, you scratch a conspiracy, you find a Zionist. And of course, they're probably being manipulated as well. Turkey puts Israeli officers on trial in Absentia. So it says Turkey put former Israeli military chiefs on trial for ordering a deadly raid on the Gaza-bound aid ship, prolonging a dispute between the former allies, even as their interests in the region converge. That's right. I think it's a big show, but Erdogan has to do that because he's starting to lose control in his own country. Like I said before, the Kurds and there's actually an assassination attempt right here. They're not really sure whether it's an assassination attempt or not, but Erdogan, not feeling like spreading the story, says after a man shot a gun inside the prime minister's building. So Turkey was starting to back up on some things. They were asking for Patriot missiles, but they were also backing off the whole no-fly zone thing. So this could have been an assassination attempt by his own people that don't like him, or his administration, or this could have been, again, like I said, the Zionists. They do this to their partners, their quote friends and allies who don't do exactly what they tell them to do. Crazy stuff like this will happen because it's hard to pinpoint. You know, whether this was a genuine assassination attempt or whether it was indeed, as Turkey is claiming, someone trying to intimidate the government. Either way, it was a very strong indicator as to what the political undercurrent of the country is right now, and I think that has made the Turkish government very, very nervous. So, yeah, it's like that in Lebanon, it's like that in Iraq. I mean, it's, you know, it is. It's like a powder keg. We're living through like the early 1900s before World War started. And of course, it's completely engineered. It's not like, oh, you know, this just happens to be a chain of events. No, this was engineered from the beginning. This is all the result of regime changes and poking and prodding at sovereign nations and creating instability. Turkey puts Israeli officers on trial. Now, we covered that. Remember this. Israel calculated calories before blockading Gaza. So these people that need aid didn't get it when the Israelis did a strike team task force special forces raid on these activists. And also what they did was they actually calculated the minimum amount of food Gaza's population would need to avoid starving. So very humanitarian. Iran opens 5th naval base in Persian Gulf on Sunday, inaugurated its 5th naval base in the Persian Gulf, will provide security for islands. And, you know, U.S. is, of course, closely watching, right, in that area. UK was talking about deploying fighter jets to if need be, in the Gulf. And, of course, now that the elections are pretty much over, then they can move forward. Just like Obama off mic getting caught talking to Medvedev, Russia, about things he can finally do after the elections and stuff like that. So my thing is, my advice is just be ready for anything, guys. As far as, you know, crazy stuff happening, I don't think the crap's ever going to hit the fan to where we actually get a little bit of freedom, a little bit of instability. I mean, as bad as it may be in the Northeast, they may actually have a little more freedom. And I don't think the powers that be want that until they have their complete matrix set up. So if it does happen, it means that they're all set up with their drones and everything and their underground bases. U.S.-led Iran sanctions are stoking anti-American sentiment, harming millions of Iranian civilians for something they didn't do. Defense and Russia, they fire their defense chief. That's a big deal. Russia ramps up ICB missile test. Then you have a Russian nationalist vow to drive Putin out, which is funny because Putin drove out the people that helped put him there. And these types of revolutions cater and play into the powers that be. Experts present 3 scenarios for change of power in Russia. That's what they want. Most realistic scenario is massive civil disobedience, like the riot. Dagestan becoming a hotbed for insurgency, just like the West is behind the terror wave in Russia for the subversion of Russia. There's a sub off the U.S. Then also China is taking wartime security measures, the ones to replace the U.S. dollar, and Korea is on the brink of war.